Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Yin. For your props this morning, if you'd like to have a bolster or cushion and your 2 blocks, be perfect. And we're going to start our practice this morning in reclined supported butterfly. You want to take your bolster down the center of your mat. And then bring your low back up against that bolster. If you want a nice supported lumbar spine, bring that cushion right up against your tailbone. Bring the soles of your feet in together into butterfly. And then let yourself recline back. If your low back feels okay, you don't have any issues with the low back, you can get right into a little bit of tension and pressure through the lumbar spine by just shifting that bolster about 2 to 3 inches away from your body. That will allow the lumbar spine to stay unsupported. You'll start right off the bat by getting into the spaces between the spine, into everything in that low back. It's up to you, yogi's choice. Do what feels comfortable for you. And just gently guide yourself down your prop. Adjust on it as you get down. So maybe you've given yourself that space as you come down. There's a little bit of pinching or discomfort through the low back. Just slide that bolster a little bit closer and give yourself that support. Notice if the shoulders are creeping up around the ears. If they are, see if you can roll them down, draw the shoulder blades down the spine to create space. Take the arms out to the side. If you have a lot of pressure through the chest, through the neck in this pose with the arms out to the side, you can try taking the forearms to blocks on either side, or maybe you can take opposite elbows up overhead. Adjust the feet as necessary. Maybe slide the heels a little bit further away from the body, a little bit closer. And just take a breath or so to let yourself get settled into this pose. Feel your heart opening, feel your hips opening. Take a deep breath in through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Let out a sigh. Do that a few times. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Just let go of everything that came before these moments, heading to the mat, everything that will follow. Just feel your body shift into rest mode as you breathe here. Maybe take 1 or 2 more breaths out through the mouth and then bring yourself back to the natural rhythm of your breath. Take a gentle scan of the body here in this posture. Notice if there's any spaces that are feeling any compression or constriction, any pain. Remind yourself in Yin, a little bit of discomfort is okay, but pain is not. And let yourself fully settle into the pose. As you relax here, shift your awareness to the mind. Noticing how your thoughts, how your mind space is feeling this morning. Notice anything that keeps coming through for you here, any thought patterns, anything that feels pressing, that's trying to make itself known, and just acknowledge it. Honoring that we do have these thoughts, and in our modern lives, being able to shift to that still, entirely silent space isn't always possible, but maybe we can just slow down the thoughts in our Yin practice a little bit, giving ourselves a little bit of extra peace. And as you settle into your practice this morning, gentle reminder of the principles of our Yin Yoga practice. The first principle is we're coming into an appropriate depth or edge of the pose for our body. Honoring where we are today, realizing that these poses are passive in nature. Give yourself permission to add a prop, to slide a body part away a little bit more, to find your edge. If you feel your muscles starting to fire up, honor your ego and draw back. Second, resolving to stillness of body and mind. And lastly, allowing yourself to stay in the pose for a period of time. Shift your awareness back to your breath. Feeling it move through your heart space into your belly. And for the next few moments of this pose, settle into the silence. Stay here in this pose for another 5 deep breaths. Let those breaths be slow and steady. Don't rush through them. And when you've made your way to your 5th breath, either gently guiding yourself up to seated, or take one arm up overhead so you can gently roll off your prop, and then pressing yourself up to seated. In your seated position, we're coming right back into that butterfly leg. So adjusting your sit bones, taking any tissue out from underneath you need to. Feel your sit bones connect to the earth. Tilt the pelvis around as you need to have that tailbone pointing down towards the mat. A little bit of engagement through the abdomen so that you can create space in the spine, lift the heart, draw the shoulders back and down. Find the length in your torso. Let the palms rest to the knees. Maybe they're at the shins. Maybe it feels better to take a little bit of a lean forward, bringing the fingers around the ankles. Or maybe if the spine stays straight, they come all the way down to the toes. You're coming down to the toes or the ankles. Notice if the shoulders creep up. If they do, draw them back and down. Take your gaze forward. We're coming into an erect spine butterfly for 3 minutes. So find the version that feels good for you. As long as the spine is straight, you can tilt forward a little bit. Try to avoid tilting backwards. But find that seat that feels good. If the legs are starting to get a little bit tired from butterfly, don't be afraid to use your prop. Bring your blocks in underneath the knees for some support. Maybe slide the feet a little bit further away from you into more of a diamond shape. Find a position here that works for you. Take a deep breath in and let yourself settle into the stillness in this pose, gentle and still. Find your breath. And find something to anchor your thoughts into stillness. In this posture, you're working the spleen and you're working the liver meridians. If you're feeling it at all through the top part of the leg, you're getting into the stomach, a little bit through the gallbladder. And if you're feeling any tension through the spine, if you're not used to sitting up straight all the time, you might be getting that in through the gallbladder, or the urinary bladder. Feel your breath traveling all the way down into your belly. Maybe tap into your Ujjayi breath if it's part of your practice. If you're not familiar with it, our Ujjayi breath is that ocean breath or constriction in the back of our throat as we breathe. We inhale in through the nose and we exhale through the nose, but the sensation is that we're exhaling through a closed mouth. So you feel that constriction in the back of your throat, almost like you're trying to fog up a window with your mouth closed as you exhale through your nose. Our Ujjayi breath is really good for turning on the parasympathetic nervous system and letting go of the stress and tension from our body and our mind. We'll stay here in this butterfly for another 5 breaths. Again, take those breaths slow and controlled. Really feeling them move through your body, noticing the energy shift and move through your body as you come to the end of your posture. Feel your heart expand. If you have any props, just set them off to your side. We're going to take the legs wide, coming into dragonfly. So taking your legs only as wide as feels comfortable. And we'll begin by preparing for this pose as though we were moving into a yang style wide sit beat. So we're going to ground the heels down, get long and strong through the legs, through the torso, knees point up to the sky, send the soles of the feet away from you. Get that little bit of activation through the legs, and then let your body soften. Honor your edge. Maybe the toes point, maybe they drift off to the side a little bit. If the knees roll out, that's okay. Maybe you feel like there's a little bit too much compression and tension through the legs, and you need to bring the legs a little bit closer together. Honor where you are. This time we're going to come into a fold, so maybe have the blocks or bolster nearby. Find the length again through your spine. Take your prop in front of you. And with that spine long and erect, hinge from the hips, bring yourself into that fold. And then when you feel like you're at your edge, let your spine round. Maybe you come down to your blocks. Maybe they're on a higher setting. Maybe you bring that bolster into the center. Maybe we're making a little ramp with our 2 blocks stacked in between our feet. High end of the bolster at one end, you're bringing it a little bit closer. so that you have a little bit more support in that bolster. Let your spine round, tuck your chin to your chest if that feels okay for the neck. Maybe it feels better to have the arms move down the legs a little bit to support you that way. Really focusing on letting the spine round. Allow yourself to feel supported as you settle into this pose. You're in this hold for 4 more minutes. Again, come back to the breath. Let the breath guide you into stillness. Use your Ujjayi breath to cool the body if it feels any tension here. And as you settle in here, remind yourself you're feeling this pose in through back of the knee. So we don't want to be feeling the muscles of the legs. We want to be feeling it in the back of the knees. So if you're feeling it in the legs, see if you can soften those legs a little bit more. Maybe bring them a little bit closer together, or maybe try taking a bit of a bend through the knee. That might feel better. Notice if you're holding tension anywhere, feeling this in the shoulders. If you are, create space. Let yourself soften. If you have tight hip flexors, you might be feeling this in the hip a little bit too. Stay here in this fold for another 5 deep breaths, but as always, if you've had enough of the fold, begin to guide yourself out of this pose. next inhale, slowly begin to uncurl the spine. Keep your movements slow and controlled. Bring yourself back upright. And we'll just take a few seated cat-cows to rebound that fold. So on your inhale, roll the shoulders forward. On your exhale, roll the shoulders forward, tuck the chin to the chest, seated cat. On your exhale or inhale, roll the shoulders back, lift the heart, take your gaze up, seated cow. Exhale, shoulders roll forward, tuck chin to the chest, seated cat. Inhale, shoulders roll back, chest lifts, seated cow. Just take 1 or 2 more rounds and then come back to stillness in the center. Have your bolster nearby. Keep the legs wide. And just take that bolster. You may not need the bolster, so we're coming into dragonfly with a side bend. So we're going to stay square to the center of our legs, and we're just going to glide that left arm down the left leg. Gonna get this right in through the side body, and then you're gonna be pinching or squeezing the internal organs on the left. So if that feels like a lot, you can take your bolster and just cross it over your thigh, but so it's resting on the mat to your left, and just let the armpit area rest. So it gives you a little bit extra height there. Protect the neck, tuck the ear down towards the shoulder, or you may feel better with chin tucking towards the chest here for the neck. Finding what works best for you. If it feels okay, if you have no issues through the shoulder, you can extend that right arm up to the sky. Maybe take a bend through the elbow to let the fingertips rest on the shoulder. That's one option for that arm. You can just leave it dangling beside as well if that feels okay. Or you can wrap it in behind the back. That might feel okay. So finding the version of this pose that works for you. This posture isn't necessarily working any of the meridians in the body, but it's giving that little bit of a squeeze to the internal organs on each side as we work each side, and then getting a little bit into that side body. Take one more deep breath here on this side, and on your next inhale, guide yourself back up to the center. And then we're switching sides, coming down that right leg. So switch that bolster over if you prefer to use it. Guide your arm down that right leg. Keep yourself square to the center of the legs. Again, either tucking the ear to the shoulder to protect the neck, or turning so chin faces chest, whatever feels better for you. And then maybe you draw that left arm up overhead. Maybe it comes to a bend. Maybe you draw it in behind, or maybe it just rests on the bolster, whatever feels best for you. Feeling that stretch right in through the left side body, a little bit of a pinch through the organs on the right side. Let yourself settle into this pose. If that left hip is starting to pop it up, just gently guide it back down towards the mat. You have the arm in action, open through the left side, through the chest. Draw the head of the arm bone back to create space there. Maybe you're getting into the shoulder a little bit. Stay here for one more deep breath. On your next inhale, guide yourself back up to center. Bring your legs together. And again, find that little bit of activation through the legs. So ground the hips down or the heels down. Send the soles of the feet away from you. Strong through the legs. Inwardly rotate the thighs. The knees are pointing up to the sky. Adjust through the sit bones, adjust through the hips, and find that comfortable seat. Find the length in your spine. We're coming into caterpillar. So when you have that strong Dandasana shape, then let the body soften. You might want your bolster nearby as we come in for a forward fold. Maybe take a little bit of a bend through the knee. You might like to have a rolled blanket or cushion in behind the knees if you have a lot of stretch going on through the hamstrings. Take that bolster, maybe it rests on the thighs. You roll yourself forward over it. Maybe you like to have it between the legs with the high end up near the forehead. You give it a hug, just gently lean into it. Or maybe you just tuck the chin to the chest today. Let the hands rest somewhere on the legs. Maybe you take opposite shoulders for teddy bear arms. Let the chin rest in the wrists. Adjust the legs as you need to. Maybe you do take them around hip distance. Maybe let the toes relax. Take a deep breath in. Feel the back expand. And as you exhale, feel yourself soften into the fold. Find stillness in this fold. notice in your folds, there's a lot of compression through the lower back. Give yourself permission to draw out of the fold a little bit. Recreate some length in the spine. Check in with your breath here. Really focus on expanding through the back as your heart expands on your inhale, sending it all the way down to the belly on the exhale. Take 5 more deep breaths here in this pose. And on your next inhale, slowly begin to uncurl the spine. Bringing yourself back upright. Keep the legs long. Take the fingertips just in behind the hips. Lift the heart. Take the gaze to the sky. Just take this extension just for a few breaths. Maybe you can lower the head down if that feels okay for the neck. Just to counter pose that fold. Stay here for one more breath and then bring yourself back up. Take that right leg just a little bit wider, or you can keep it as it is. We're going to come into half saddle. So half saddle is keeping the right leg as it is long, or maybe taking it out to the side a little bit. And then we're going to swing that left leg behind just like we would in deer pose. So the heel comes in towards the hip. So from here, you might be feeling this quite a bit through that left hip as it's in an external rotation. So you can adjust this by taking the leg a little bit wider or a little bit closer, or moving that heel away from your body. So this is one that will really depend on your body, how it feels. If you find that this pose just absolutely is not working for you, you can come down to the belly and come into half frog instead. It'll have the same type of movement, just with a little bit less pressure. If you're really comfortable in half saddle, you can set yourself up on your mat so that your bolster is in behind you, in line with your spine, and you can guide yourself down onto the bolster. Maybe the heel comes a little bit tighter into the body. Again, we don't do saddle all that often, especially on the internet. It's a little bit trickier to guide into. So really adjusting where you are. Again, maybe you come down to the belly. Find the version that works well for you. Maybe coming into that reclined version. Really being aware of the external rotation through that left hip and protecting that left knee. We're only in this pose for 2 minutes aside. So find where it feels comfortable. Try to keep yourself square. Try to keep the spine long. You're in that frog, feel as though the hip, the knee are pulling away from the body, creating space in the hip socket. If you're in that half saddle, you feel like the left hip is starting to float, just gently press it down towards the mat. It may not touch, that's okay. Just guide it down. Stay here on this side for 5 more deep breaths. If you've had enough of it, bring the left leg back to meet the right. If you're up in half saddle, untuck that leg, swing it back around to meet the right. If you're in frog, bring that leg back long behind you, and then we'll switch sides. And frog, take it to a 90-degree bend. Feel like the knee and hip are pulling away from your body. In saddle, find this position for the left leg that feels good. Swing that right leg back, just like deer pose. Notice this side might feel a lot different. If you're seated, you may find that you need to come down to frog for it, or maybe you don't come into that reclined version. Settle in here. Really paying attention to the right hip, the right knee. Stay here for 5 more deep breaths, or bring that leg back to meet the left if you've had enough of this pose. And draw that right leg back to the left. If you're upright, bring the legs into seated so you can rock forward to table. If you're in frog, gently press yourself up to table. Find your tabletop. Knees are under the hips, hip distance apart, wrists are under the shoulders, shoulder distance apart. Just come into a few gentle cat-cows here. You can curl the toes to get into all the meridians of the lower body if you like. On your inhale, tailbone to the sky, scoop the belly, shine the heart through to cow. Exhale, tailbone tucks, spine rounds, chin to chest to cat. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Go for about 5 rounds with your own breath. Try to keep that movement isolated to the spine. Notice if the arms are shifting. If they are, see if you can keep them still. And after that 5th round, come back to stillness in your table. Untuck the toes. We're coming into a child's pose. If you have trouble with the lower body in child's pose, you might like to take your bolster or cushion. So you can see I have it in between my legs rather than under my torso. So when I bring my toes together, they're going to touch the bolster. My arms are going to come long. And when I sit the hips back, it's almost like a seat on the bolster. Torso comes down to the mat. It tends to take a little bit of that pressure out from in behind the legs when you're in that child's pose. Let the arms come out long, create space through the shoulders. In this pose, you're opening up the small and large intestines at the back of the arms. You're getting into the heart, the lung, the pericardium in the front of the arms. Getting into the gallbladder down the sides of the legs, urinary bladder down the back of the legs. You're into the liver and the spleen and the stomach and the inner thighs and the front of the leg. All of the meridians of the body are being stretched in this pose while we work the ankles and the spine. Let yourself settle into stillness here. Feel supported in this child's pose. See if you can soften through any tension that you're holding on to in the arms. Soften through the hips. If you've taken your cheek off to one side, wherever you are, or at the halfway point, maybe take it over to the other side to balance the body. Or if you're content as you are, stay there. And on your next inhale, slowly begin to lift the body, and we're going to shift ourselves forward to the belly. Coming down to the mat, coming into that resting crocodile pose. So take the toes to the outer edges of the mat, cross through the arms, maybe take opposite elbows. Let the forehead rest in your arms, or maybe it rests on a block. And just let yourself be aware of the energy shifting around in your body right now. Stay with your breath here. And begin to bring those legs back together, tops of the feet coming to the mat. You can have the feet together, maybe they're hip distance. Curl the toes and send the soles of the feet away from you as you lengthen through the legs. And then exhale, lower them back down, untuck those toes. See if the legs feel like there's a little bit more space there now. Come on to the forearms, bringing the elbows just a little bit in front of the shoulders. Elbows are tucked in tight to the body. Lift the heart. Spread your fingers. Press the finger pads into the mat. We'll lift the heart. Take the gaze forward. We're coming into Sphinx pose. Check in with the shoulders. Roll them back. Create space through that upper back. Take a deep breath in. See if you can lift that heart a little bit more. And settle into this pose. Notice where you're pressing into the mat. If all of it is happening through the belly, see if you can shift it so that you're pressing the pelvis, the top of the thigh, the top of the foot into the mat rather than the belly. The belly should be soft because it's having that little bit of a gentle lift through the heart. Adjust the arms if you need to. Have any compression through the lower back, take the feet a little bit wider. Really let this movement come through the upper body. We're working into the heart, to the lungs, the pericardium. We're working the large and small intestines and the triple burner in this pose. Stay here for 5 more deep breaths. Or as always, if you've had enough, exhale, bring yourself back down to crocodile. One more breath, and then exhale, lower yourself back down to the mat. Take that resting crocodile one more time. Cross the arms, take the toes out to the side, let the head rest. Deep breathing here. And then take one arm out long in front of you. Gently guide yourself over to that side. Legs tucked in fetal position. And then press yourself all the way onto the back. On the back, take a bend through the knee. Bring the heels in towards the glutes. Feet are around hip distance apart. Take your arms out to a T. You can either have the back of the hand resting into the ground or the palm, whatever feels better, through the chest, neck, shoulders. On an exhale, let both knees fall over to the right. Coming into a supine twist. If the shoulder lifts here, create space so you can get the shoulder back down to the mat. Adjust the legs as you need to. The tighter the heels are in towards the glutes, the more intense the stretch will be. If you want to walk the feet away a little bit. Let the shoulders release onto the mat, let go of tension there. Gently draw the top hip down. Come to your breath here, settle into this twist. Keep your gaze to the sky. Or you can close the eyes, whatever feels best for you. On your next inhale, draw the knees back up to the sky. Re-square the hips if you need to. Bring the feet back to hip distance. And on your next exhale, let the knees lower over to the left. That right shoulder pops. See if you can create space to lower it back down. Adjust the arms as you need to. And allow yourself to sink back into your twist. Draw the knees back up to center. Take the soles of the feet to the edges of your mat. And windshield wipers slowly side to side. Releasing any tension through the hip joints, through the low back. Come back to stillness in the center. Bring the feet back together. Draw the knees into the chest, either taking in behind the knees or just below. Your knees can be together. Maybe they come a little bit wider. Roll the shoulder blades down the spine. Create space. Let the shoulders rest on the mat. Into wind relieving pose just for a few breaths. Let the belly, the core stay soft here. And stay here in this pose for 5 more deep breaths. And on your next exhale, slowly lower the feet back down to the mat. Taking any last movements that feel good for the body here. Before you send the legs long, shift yourself into your final resting pose. Come into Shavasana. Take the legs long, hip distance or wider. Let the toes fall out to the side. Take the arms wide. Create space through the neck and the shoulders. Let your whole body go soft as you close the eyes. And come back to your breath. Inhaling in through the nose, exhaling through the nose. Let your breath guide you back down into the stillness of this posture. And as you come to rest, take a gentle scan of the body from the crown of the head, down through the fingertips, down through the toes. Noticing how you're feeling, how you've shifted. Feeling as though your body is lifting up from the mat with every inhale. Sinking deeper down as you exhale, sending the breath down through the fingertips and down through the toes. Let the breath just flow naturally and freely throughout your being. Feeling rest come like a wave washing over your body. Each space that the breath touches, feeling it rest just a little bit deeper. Continue to let your thoughts soften and slow down. And if your thoughts have drifted off to another space, gently guide them back to your mat. Begin to re-wake the body, drawing gentle movement back to the fingers and the toes, circling through the wrists, the shoulders, the ankles, maybe gently rocking the hips side to side. Adding in any larger movement that feels good and appropriate until you feel ready to guide yourself over to your favorite side. Draw the legs into a fetal position. Stop here for a breath or so of gratitude for yourself, dedicating this time to you, your self-care, and your practice. Gently guide yourself back up to a seated position, eyes softly closed, or pick a spot in front of you to gaze at. Let the palms rest to the knees, or if it's part of your practice, you can take them to Mudra at Heart Center, to Anjali or Namaskar Mudra. Find the length in your spine again. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, let go. Thank you for allowing me to guide you through your practice this morning. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.